Tired of feeling tired? Done with diet culture? Overwhelmed by conflicting nutrition and fitness messages? Then join us, your hosts of the Nutrition Revolution podcast, as we take a deep dive into all things women's fitness and nutrition. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Tabitha. And together we are debunking diet culture myths and giving you the tools you need to finally see the results you're looking for.
Today we're going to talk about low energy availability in women and what we can do about it, what it is. And I think that there are a lot of myths that this low energy availability is mostly in athletes and that it can only be for people who are doing endurance races like triathlons or Ironmans or whatever. But in reality, low energy availability is pretty common in most women who are feeling just kind of run down. So Tabitha, do you want to kind of go into the science of what we mean when we talk about LEA or low energy availability?
Yeah. I think to start, you bring up a really great point that it kind of has this stigma around it. I guess stigma is not the right word, but this belief system, I guess, is a better way to describe it, that it only applies to athletes, people that are paid to perform, or like D1 college athletes, Olympians.
Making
and
training their full-time job.
Right, not the average woman. And I mean, historically, LEA was called RED-S, Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. So you can see how
you add sport to it.
People just say like, oh, that doesn't apply to me because I'm not an athlete. And actually, this is interesting. In the field of like sports nutrition, anyone that regularly engages in training, any type of training, we consider you an athlete.
Right.
So if you're listening,
congrats.
And you work out regularly, girlfriend, you are an athlete.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Studies done on women have shown that up to 70% of women have at one point been in a state of low energy availability or are currently, like it's a combination of have been or currently are. So it affects women, a lot of women, the majority, right? The overwhelming majority. And it is a real concern, especially I feel like the women that are sort of that like 35 plus crowd where we were raised on the path towards being as skinny as you possibly can, because that's the end goal, is to just eat less, right? Living on 1,200 calories a day or less, exercising as much as possible. And that really sets the stage for being more susceptible to being in that low energy availability state. And so what is low energy availability? In a nutshell, the easiest way to explain it is that it is when you are living in a prolonged state of taking in less calories, less energy than what your body is expending through your activities of daily living. So just getting up, moving around, walking to the mailbox, putting away dishes, doing laundry, going to work, and then your actual exercise. So the energy or calories that you burn from everyday living and then from intentional exercise, when that is greater than what you are taking in, you are in a state of low energy availability. And people think, well, that is the path towards losing weight. Like if I,
it's just normal.
Right. If I have a fat loss goal, then that's just what I need to do. And like, yes and no.
Yeah.
It's nuanced. Yes, you will initially up front, if you're like just starting a weight loss journey, experience weight loss. But when you live,
right, if you're constantly in that state of no food, no energy, it's going to affect your hormones.
Or not just no food, but not enough to meet the demands of your
1,200
training. And you're like, the average woman that's not like, small children need that much.
You're not
or
a toddler.
More. And so if you are working out regularly and you're maybe doing more cardio, endurance based, this higher calorie burn, you are more susceptible to ending up in that low energy availability. And what I see is women will, start their journey or their path towards like, I'm going to be healthier, which tends for women to be synonymous with I need to lose weight.
Right.
And so they'll start a reduced calorie, increase their exercise, and they will start losing. And then it's around that like 6-month mark where things all of a sudden really take a turn for the negative and they start plateauing or finding that they're no longer seeing any positive adaptation. They're actually seeing more fat storage and less muscle maintenance or even, building. And that's where like when it comes to low energy availability, the devil's in the dose. It all comes down to that balancing act. So I think that a lot of women don't understand that our bodies, especially the female body and physiology, is not designed to live and stay in a constant state of low energy availability, of not having enough energy calories coming in to meet the demands of all the things that you do and what your body needs. And when you are constantly living that way, dysfunction, dysregulation, hormonal imbalances follow, and then you end up kind of dug in this hole.
Yeah.
And
now
then,
I'm too tired to get up and work out. I'm too tired to even fix a meal. I'm too tired to even function, so I can't do anything. And then you're just done.
And even if you do like push through, right? And woman up and you go to your workouts, like you just feel like crap, you feel gassed, and you start having headaches, and then your sleep is
pushing
disturbed.
as much weight as you used to. Why am I getting weaker? I should be getting and building strength, but I'm getting weaker.
And in extreme cases, the first thing you'll notice is disturbances in your menstrual cycle. But if you're on oral contraceptives or hormonal contraceptives, you're not going to see that because you're not having like a natural cycle, meaning the contraceptive is replacing your endogenous, meaning your natural, what your body produces, the estrogen and progesterone. It's just replacing it with a synthetic form. So you don't have like your period is a breakthrough bleed. It's not a real period. So you don't see that first change. And then in some cases, women, like they experience hair loss.
I feel like that's a big one. Hair loss has been, why is my hair falling out? Why can't I function? Why? And I feel like people blame it on other stuff, but in reality, it's because you're not eating enough food
to
and then you do all the things you're doing.
You feel tired all the time, and it's like, oh, well, you're just like a middle-aged, stressed out mom of 2, 3, 4 kids running the rat race.
You're aging. This is normal.
Right. You're working all the time. And so then we kind of fall into this like, oh, this is just what comes with aging. And no, that's what comes with living in starvation mode, which is ultimately what low energy availability is. And that's kind of an extreme way to describe it, but living where you're not giving your body what it needs, and your body responds. It's it's intelligent, and it has a high, adaptation rate to adjust to what you are giving it or what you're not giving it.
Right. It was created to know how to function
and thrive. Exactly. So women, the biggest thing that we can do is make sure that we're fueling properly and at the right time, and focusing on like nutrition over the calories, and that can really help avoid low energy availability. And I think it can be helpful to talk about what some of the signs and symptoms.
That's what I was going to say. So
like, how do I know? How do you know, our listeners, are you in low energy availability, or have you ever been?
Yeah.
Some of the first initial ones are going to be that you just don't feel strong and energized.
Right. You're almost like you feel like you're coming down with something, but it just, like, you're not sick, but it just, something is off.
Yeah. You get home at the end of the day, and the thought of having to like make dinner or do anything is like, I can't. I just want to sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Headaches, like regular headaches, are big. One of the biggest symptoms of the women that I work with that are in low energy availability that come to me, it's like daily headaches, the crashing at the end of the day, increased cravings too, where they just feel like they cannot stay out of the pantry or the
just
junk
hungry
food.
all of the time.
Yeah. In the extreme cases, the disturbances to the cycle, if they're naturally cycling, hair loss, also the body composition changes, where you're like, I don't know about you, but I hear this all the time with women that I currently work with and that first come to me. It's like, I exercise 4 or 5 days a week religiously. Like, I'm very consistent, and I watch what I eat. And that, I don't know about you, but I feel like when they say I watch what I eat, I'm like, right away, it's like portions. A red flag. And I'm like, oh no, you mean you're eating as little as possible. Right. And you're cutting out carbs. Yeah. So they're like, I'm still doing all the things that worked when I was 25, but now I'm 35 plus, and it's not working. I'm actually like, my waistline is expanding. My clothes don't fit. I don't look fitter.
I feel flabby.
Yes.
That's the big one for me, is and it's such a like harsh way to say it, but a lot of the people who I see in this, having low energy availability, is they work out, they move their body, they eat what they're tracking what they're eating, or they're paying attention to what they're eating, but they aren't building muscle. They just look like skin is hanging, or like they're puffy.
They're not fitter, they're fatter.
Right.
And we're talking about body composition.
Right. Body composition.
Right. So that is like a big sign that, things have plateaued and you're no longer seeing any positive progress, and the workouts are just a struggle.
I was just say, so I see it mostly with my women who, maybe 1 week they come in and they can deadlift 150 pounds. And then 2 weeks later they come in and they're like 135 is gassing them. Like they're just struggling. And they're like, what, why can't I get this up? And I'm like, well, what have you eaten this week? Let's look and see, let's start tracking. And it's because they just either forget to eat, or they're running around and not paying attention to what they're eating, or they're purposefully only eating a certain amount of calories because they're like working out now. So I want to work out and eat less. So I'm trying to figure out, right? Eat less, move more, and I'm going to be great.
Magic formula.
And it's just not working.
It is to a point in the beginning, but our bodies are not designed to live starved.
Right.
Long term.
Yeah.
Right? You need to be cycling through, even bodybuilders, which the average woman is not looking to be a bodybuilder. Okay. Right. But I'm just using this as an example. Even bodybuilders, they cycle through a build and a cut. And a build and a cut, and then maintenance, right? Like they're not always building or cutting. They're also having maintenance times, and that keeps your metabolism vibrant. That keeps the hormones in balance, and it helps you to thrive instead of like just trying to survive.
Yeah. And even for like different things you have to have that balance, because if you're constantly starving, you're going to be overwhelmed constantly. You're going to constantly feel like you're on the struggle bus, constantly living in this like fight or flight mode where you can't function and everything is just a stressor. You know, there's that hangry feeling. Add hangry on top of now you have to work out, you have to do your job, you have to function and continue living your life. But now you're so hungry that you're just constantly like stressed out and anxious, and it's not working well.
Yeah. And to the opposite of that, one of the other things that I see with my clients that have been in a state of low energy availability long term, they actually don't have an appetite anymore. So it's not even that they feel hungry. They're past that. They're like this hunger signaling has been turned down. Metabolism is lowered because they've lost muscle and they just don't have an appetite. And that's always a red flag for me. Right. Like, okay, something is wrong, because I feel like culturally, especially for women, it's like, don't be hungry.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be hungry.
You shouldn't be hungry.
You don't want to eat a lot. Don't be hungry. And it's like, no, actually hunger and satiety. So cycling throughout your day, feelings of I need to eat,
right,
and then I've eaten and I'm full and satisfied. Yeah. That's actually normal.
It's
healthy,
a good thing. Yeah.
Like that's the way that our bodies are designed to work. So it's not like you don't get a gold star for being like, oh, I'm never hungry, I don't eat. Like, no, actually, girlfriend, that's a sign that something's wrong.
But I think people do brag about that. They're like, I forget to eat, or
I eat once a day.
Right. I wake up and I'm just not hungry. And, we look at it as, okay, your hormones are broken, let's fix them. Where society has made it like oh man, that's why they're so thin, or that's why, they're losing weight and that's how you should be. And women, I feel like, do get embarrassed to say, like, I'm hungry, and it's okay. Like, I wake up and I'm starving. Like, let me eat some food because I'm hungry. Or
eat more than a salad with a little bit of protein on it.
Right.
Like every meal, whenever you go out, like that's like the standard go-to is that.
But it has been that cultural ingraining in us. Like, women are small. We need to be tiny. We need to not be seen, and, just eat your little salad and then move on. And that should be enough for you. And so I remember growing up, like, my mom would eat like a couple of wheat thin crackers and a Diet Coke. And that's what I saw her eat. Like, that was it. And then she would make a big dinner, but she was so busy serving the dinner, I don't really remember her like eating. And so in my brain, she was tiny. That's what you do. So I would eat a couple of wheat thin crackers and try to emulate what I was seeing. And
in your mom's defense, she didn't know better.
No, and she wasn't doing it on purpose. That's just, I saw someone who was thin, saw her eating habits and tried to be like her, but it didn't work for me. Right. But I feel like our growing up and like in society and movies and TV shows in our generation, like that's how you stay tiny, is you don't eat a lot. Women order salad and the men order steak and potato. And that's how it's supposed to be. And it's just the wrong message, because
for long-term health.
Yeah. You're not going to see muscle growth. Your bone density is at risk. If you're in your 70s and you're going to fall, like that's dangerous. And so you have to be eating enough food to sustain even just your daily movements, getting up, putting in laundry, cleaning the house, or getting up, getting the kids ready, going to work, or whatever it is that you do. You have to eat enough food, more than 1,200 calories, just to sustain your normal day.
Yes. I always use the analogy of a car, because I'm really big on like fuel the machine.
Right.
And your body is the ultimate machine.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people and work with my clients through kind of the mindset too around eating more, because that's a whole nother conversation that's very scary for women to increase what they're eating, especially if they feel like they're struggling or stuck. Yeah. But I digress. Squirrel moment.
Yeah.
So fuel the machine. If your body was a car, food is gasoline.
Right.
Right? Are you going to put half a tank of gas in your car and expect it to go the same number of miles that it goes on a full tank with just half a tank of fuel. No. And you're not going to be like, oh, this dumb car, it's broken. It won't even work right. Like whatever, it sucks. Right. But like, why are you doing that to your body?
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're doing. And it's not setting you up for success long-term. It's setting up for frustration, body dysmorphia, disordered eating, you know, a whole plethora of issues that come along with it. So I try to really work with people on understanding that their body is also a machine that has to be fueled. And you have to do, like, you do your regular maintenance on a car, you need to do your regular maintenance in your vehicle, on your body. And what does that look like? Healthy, nutrient-dense foods, regular, purposeful, healthy movement, adequate sleep. Like, those are the, what do they say when you go and get your oil changed? Like the 10-point inspection or something like that. I know, like, I swear I've heard that at like Jiffy Lube. It's like, what is your like 10-point inspection of your body to keep the most important machine that you'll ever own in tip-top shape? Yeah. Like Indy 500 ready to go type condition.
Taking off. Yeah.
To that point, circling back to like low energy availability, if you are a woman that exercises regularly, watches what you eat, synonymous with don't eat a lot. Yeah. And you've been struggling with your energy levels for a long, long time, and you go to your doctor and they do like a full thyroid screening panel, and they come back and they're like, you have, you know, hypothyroidism, so low functioning thyroid. That can be one of the side effects of living in low energy availability long term. Yeah. So yes, you need to be put on medication and you need to work with your doctor on that, but you also need to get to what is the underlying root cause. And I'm not saying that every hypothyroidism situation is that. I'm saying if you are an active woman, so you regularly engage in exercise, you have lived in a state of trying to eat as little as possible that you can get away with, and you no longer have much of an appetite, you feel like you very much plateaued, you need to also look at how you are fueling your machine, your body. And unfortunately, right now, most primary care doctors are not going to be asking you about your nutritional habits and what your energy intake, so calorie intake, is like. And that can absolutely be one of, or the underlying root cause to that hypothyroidism. And yes, they can put you on medication for it, but it's not going to be fixed if you don't address the fueling issues. Yeah, I agree. I think that too, having that low energy availability, you know, you had talked about women are afraid to eat, women are afraid to increase their calories. I think this is kind of why I shifted a lot of my coaching to count your protein intake versus looking at the calories. So, you know, I have like a thing that creates custom nutrition plan for them that gives them a calorie range, and it gives them like their macro range. And I tell them, I don't care about your calories right now. What I want you to do is focus on the protein intake, increasing that protein intake each week until you hit your goal range. And a lot of them are like, but if I eat that much protein, my calories are going to be really high. And I always tell them, that's the point, kind of, is that I want your calories to increase. And they're always terrified to go over, like, 1,800 is the magic number. Like if it's more than 1,800,
I am doing something wrong. And I'm like, that's, you know, 2,300 actually is what I was looking at for you. And they're like, So I had one
baby
girl.
Steps, right? Like steps. If you're going from 1,200, we got to phase it. But I know I immediately start getting questions. Well, is this too much? Like, am I going to start gaining weight? Right. You know, is this enough to help me? Like, is this too much where I'm not going to lose weight? And then I have to have those conversations. But it's, you know, I feel bad for women. We've really been done a disservice, and they are really scared to eat more. And it's so like ingrained in us that it's calories in, calories out. And it is to a point. But again, devil's in the dose. That's my favorite thing to say.
Studies are mostly done on men.
Yes, that's true too. And if you listened to our fasting podcast episode, I really talked about the difference in the brains of men and women, and I'll give like a recap. So men in the hypothalamus is the little center of the brain that drives like your endocrine system, your appetite, hormone regulation, and even like fat signaling and storage in the body. Men have one center and the hypothalamus for all of that. Women have 2 centers, so we're literally twice as sensitive. And because our bodies biologically are the bodies that carry on the species, right? We have pregnancies, and then our bodies support those infants through nursing after birth. Our body perceives low energy availability, not enough fuel coming in, as like starvation, and there are strict protocols within the body signaling that happens to hold on to long-term energy sources, which is fat, right? That's the purpose, one of the purposes of body fat. So we end up having more signaling for increased body fat storage and holding on to what we have in case, we get pregnant, and then we have to support not just one body, but 2.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the like science of the brain, what's going on in a woman's body versus a man's, and why low, cutting calories works only to a point, and why it's so important for women to cycle and go through maintenance.
And it's also why, men will go on a diet and lose a bunch of weight, where women are in the same diet and gain weight, or it's different for them. Like I always hear that, like, my husband did this and he lost 20 pounds, so that's why I'm doing it.
My husband just stops drinking soda and he drops 10 pounds in a month.
And that's why their bodies are different than ours genetically. Like, they're different than us. And so, it makes sense.
They are actually primed to, in situations of low energy availability, like when we look at like the evolutionary happenings of the male and the female physiology, men are primed to get lean and to get super cut in situations of not enough energy coming in long term, and they can sustain almost
thrive more because they're out
twice
hunting
as low of calories per pound of fat-free mass of muscle than women can. Like, our energy needs per pound of fat-free mass, so muscle mass, is just about double what a man's needs are to maintain homeostasis in the body. So like normal functioning, which I think is like fascinating.
Yeah.
But the more you know.
I know it is interesting. Yeah.
Sorry to geek out on all of you. That's what I love to do.
But I think it's fascinating because, a lot of the health and wellness studies have been done on men and not women, and women are trying to hold up to the standard that are put on us by men and male studies. Yeah. So
it also helps, I think it helps women understand why when you and your husband go on keto, your husband loses weight and you don't long term. Like maybe you do initially, but then you start feeling like absolute trash after, 3 months or so. And it's so much harder for you to sustain, while your husband's like, well, I don't see what's the big deal? Like, I'm doing great. Or like, maybe you need to like lock in.
Yeah.
and
do better. Stop sneaking things.
That brings me to like another squirrel moment where one of the things that I think that has happened, and from just kind of my own experience with like wanting to improve body composition and times when I've had to lose weight or otherwise, when women go on a low calorie diet and they increase their activity levels and they start losing and then they plateau, there was sort of this, there was the general like prescription was, okay, well now we need to cut back even more.
Yeah. Now you need to reduce your calories even lower.
We've dug ourselves into a little bit of a hole, and now we're going to dig deeper by trying to be even more restrictive. And then we're sitting here like frustrated, upset that it's like not working and things are actually getting worse. And then your male trainer or nutrition coach, who in their defense, they just don't know. Yeah. And everything that they read is based on male data. So it works for them. And they're sitting here scratching their heads like, well, clearly you're not following the program or the plan because it would otherwise be working. And it's like, it's bro science.
Right.
Like,
a lot of the nutrition forums that I have like looked at and stuff is, I'm on a couple of them with Precision Nutrition, and it's like, oh, my client isn't losing weight. What could possibly be happening? Do you think they need to get blood work or whatever? And it's always they're obviously sneaking food is always the response. And I'm like, that's not true. Honest. Sometimes they are being honest and they are tracking everything and it's still not working. So maybe they've been living in this low energy state for so long that they actually need to increase their calories pretty high to start reversing some of the effects that they were having with the low energy. Very
But that's really scary.
Yeah, I mean,
for
your
the average
hormones
woman
can
that
get
doesn't know.
disrupted and...
Yeah. So what do we do? So if you are someone that feels like you potentially either are living in low energy availability or you have been at some point and you want to know, what can I do to get out of this and how can I avoid this? So I would say that if you are there and you want to get out of it, first we need to reverse diet. We've got to start taking in more energy. And I know that's really scary. So I try to coach nutrition over calories with a focus on actually protein and carbs. For active women, the carbs are super important. Quality of carbs, we've talked about that in other episodes.
Right.
But starting with slowly increasing, even 200 to 300 calories above what you've been taking in can start bringing you out of that.
Yeah.
The timing of your nutrient intake, which we've talked about in other episodes, and then even reducing the volume and the load of your training. So giving your body rest so that you're not expending as much energy so you can catch up and recover.
Right.
And that's kind of like the simplified, like that's a good way, I think, for the average person to start. If you want to avoid low energy availability, it's going to come down to fueling in and around your training, giving your brain the energy coming in, the signaling of energy availability when it needs it most. So stopping with all the fasting all the time, fueling properly and enough, listening to your body, right? So if you like feel hungry, don't ignore that. Don't try to just like fight through. Make sure that you are taking in enough. Look at your protein. And again, start with like on your heavier training days where it's more intense, you're going to actually have increased energy needs. And you may even see a delayed response where like the next day you're like, gosh, I'm like so much hungrier, right? Listen to that.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it and push through because you think like, oh, I have this weight loss goal.
Right.
Right.
I was going to say, there's a lot of times where like I work out and then the next day I wake up and I'm like, why can I not get enough food? Like I'm so hungry. And I'll take a minute and sit down and write out like, what did I eat yesterday? And then I'll be like, oh, I was way low in calories to do that workout. While the workout felt good, now today, if I don't eat enough, the next workout's going to feel terrible. I guess I would back up a little bit and say, in order to increase your calories, first look at what are you currently doing? Because with low energy availability, you really do want to know your caloric intake to see, all right, let's say I've been eating the same foods for 3 weeks or a year or whatever, and kind of track that for a couple of days just to see what is your calorie range that you're currently in so that you can increase those calories, 200-300 calories over time to get up to, a sustainable where you feel like your energy is coming back. I was also going to add that I have had a couple people reach out after the protein episode and they said, they have more energy than they feel like they've had in forever. And it's got to be the protein. It could be the protein, but it could also be that you're consciously eating and paying attention to your food now. And because you're trying to get in the protein, your calorie range is increased. I was going to say,
it's actually the energy availability has increased.
That has, it's because you're eating, because you're fueling your body, like you say, taking care of the machine, you are now experiencing more energy, which is sustaining you through staying awake during the day without feeling those crashes and staying, good and energized for your workouts and hitting those goals.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point and very valid. A lot of the times too, we think that we just need to push through and continue on. If you have been in a cut for like 6 to 8 weeks, you need to go into maintenance. Like we need to be cycling through, like your program should not just indefinitely be reduced caloric intake.
Yeah.
You need to, everybody.
All those Instagram models and people with muscles, they wait till they're in their cuts to do a bunch of videos while they look shredded. Like most of them are not walking around that shredded all of the time because they understand nutrition and they know that they need the energy and they need to increase their calories and have those weight gains and it only helps them for their next cut to look better by bulking and putting on that muscle mass.
Yeah, it's cyclical. There's phases to it to ultimate. And that's the other thing too. it's a slow burn. It's got to be more like the long haul, lifelong mentality of just always trying to keep your body as healthy and as strong as it can be. Right. So focusing more on your nutrition over your calories. Like, don't stress about that as much. If you are living in a state of like homeostasis with your energy availability, like your body was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Your body's going to tell you when you're hungry. It's going to tell you when it's full. You just have to be willing to listen, right? To help work through that. And I guess to wrap it up in a nutshell, if you suspect that you've been living in low energy availability or have, look at what you're taking in. Is it appropriate for the demands of your lifestyle and all the training and everything that you do? Do you need to increase a little bit? Focus on the nutrition over the calories, and pull back, like give yourself regular rest days.
Yeah.
In general, women can handle like 3 days of more intense exercise before they need like 1 to 2 days to recover, whereas men can go like 5 to 6,
right? And
they just need 1 day. So keep that in mind too. Like, because low energy availability can also be the result of not just not eating enough, but overtraining too. So it's kind of striking that balance. And if you are someone that has recently or has ever gone to doctor and you have that hypothyroidism and you feel like you are checking the boxes from some of these other things we've talked about, like really work with someone for your nutrition to help address the underlying root cause.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other questions, just send them our way.
Yeah. Let us know. Take care.
Thanks for spending your time with us. If you found this podcast helpful, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform. If you have nutrition or fitness questions you want answered on future episodes, we would love to hear from you. You can submit these questions to our email, Thenutritionrevolutionpodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram @TheNutritionRevolutionPodcast.